Hey guys, so today I am going to be telling you my worst reads of 2018, which are my 1-star reads. I do have some 2s, 3s, and 4s, but I'm not doing that. So this year I read 133 books, which is equivalent to 28,385 pages. So I did read quite a few books. I only ended up with 12 that I did not like, so I would say that's pretty good. So I have my Goodreads pulled up on my iPad here. I'm going to tell you the book, and then I'm going to tell you what I said about it on my Goodreads. I don't own any of these books anymore because I didn't like them, so I gave them away to trade in for new books that I would hopefully like. So, yeah. The first one that I read, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's The Beam by Aubrey Parker. Or it should have been this. No. Okay, never mind. Sorry. The Beam is the one that I read after The Maze Runner. So it's by Sheen Pratt and Johnny Truant. Yeah, I picked this book up because it was one of the authors that I knew. He had a new screen name or something, so I decided to check him out, and I absolutely hated this book. Sorry about the background noise. I'm washing clothes, and my dogs wanted to be near me, so they are here. So what I said about this book is there's way too many characters to keep track of what's going on. It also doesn't seem to have anything to do with the rest of the series, besides the fact that they say the beam a lot. I couldn't finish the book. It was boring and not interesting at all. So it was a did not finish book. But yeah, I gave it 1 star. I didn't like it. I couldn't get into it, so yeah. The next one I have on this list is A Girl's Guide to Vampires by Katie Macalister. I was really excited for this series. I bought it when I was in, just leaving high school, I think, and I was really excited for it. So I finally got around to reading it this year, and I literally had to push myself through the book. That's how much I did not like it. I had owned the rest of the series, because as you guys know, I can't read a series unless I have the entire thing, so that if I do end up liking it, I can just continue. So I took them all to Fairs Fair here, and I traded them in for, I think, 7 books, so yeah. So what I said about this book was, I found this book very dry. It took me 7 days to read it. I can finish a book in a maximum of 2 days, and this one took me 7. I'm going to try and read the next book, but if I can't get into it, like I couldn't really get into this one, the whole series is making a trip to Fairs Fair books, and I'll be trading them in for something else I will hopefully enjoy more. Right now I am upset that I wasted my money, but like I said, I will try the second book. I did try the second book. I read a couple of chapters of it, and it was the exact same, so I got rid of them. The next book that I have on here, there's quite a difference between them. Some people love it, others hate it like I did. I was one of the ones that hated it. So that would be The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. I should also say The Beam I only had as a ebook, and then I owned A Girl's Guide to Vampires, and I owned The Darkest Minds. I had the first 3 for The Darkest Minds, so I ended up giving those all away as well. So yeah, what I said about this one was, it's been a really long time since I read a 1-star book. This book dragged on so much and really didn't have a plot to keep it going. It's like the author stuck with the storyline, and that's it. Put in little bits of problems, and that's it. Nothing kept me interested in this book. I can usually start a book and finish it in a day or two around working. This one took me 3 and I had to force myself to read it because there was just nothing. I thought the writing in 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight were bad. This one takes the cake for horrible writing. I'm interested to know what happens to Ruby with the League, but not enough to read the remaining books in the series. Tomorrow I am going to the bookstore to try and trade in the series for something else. I read those ones in July. Next, this is a funny story. The next book that I gave 1 star is The Gigolo by Rocky Wyatt. So this one, I read it. I wrote my review, and then the author commented on it. This author is a dick, and I don't think that his publishers will be very happy with what he wrote. I'm also going to read that on here because, yeah. Okay. So what I wrote about this book is, if I could give this book a lower star, I would. This book was horrible. From the writing to the plot, just everything. I felt like I was reading a children's book about sex and the constant need to repeat everything 5 times. And all the women Paul was with were the same, just different names and looks. They all acted the same and sounded the same. There was also so many mistakes in this book. I'm glad I got to read it for free instead of buying it somewhere. I will never read another book by this author. I'm sorry. I wanted to enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy any of it, and I'm surprised I was even able to finish the book. So that still stands true. I read this book. I got it off NetGalley for free. I was so excited to read it, and yeah, it was bad. So, it wasn't only me that this author went after on his book, by the way. There was quite a few of them. So, yeah. This was his comment. The book was proofread and edited by the professional publishers, including a university lecturer in English. All these professionals were very positive about the book and its content. Nobody releases a poor product. I think this reviewer didn't like this type of book, and so she is emotionally biased, or maybe a very, very successful writer that knows something. I doubt it. Just another armchair critic being negative. If you guys know, I do read a lot of erotica and romance in general. So I think that I have a pretty good, review standard, and I think that everyone is entitled to what they think. I just don't think that the author went around in a very good way of presenting himself to his maybe would-be fans. Like, I probably, if he hadn't have said something, I probably would have forgotten his name, and if I had seen his book in a bookstore again, I probably would have picked it up. Because, I mean, the book itself looks good. Like, that's why I picked it up. It looks like something that I would normally read, but his name sticks with me now because he's a dick. Just look up The Gigolo by Rocky Wyatt, and it has a 2.79 star rating. Okay, so I was not the only one. It has mostly bad reviews. You can see that. And the funny part is that when I went into this, I went into the 5-star. 2 of the 5-star reviews are from Rocky himself. So he only has 1 5-star review. So clearly a lot of people did not like this book, but he just attacked everybody on there that gave it a bad review. So it's really funny. Go look up that. Okay, the next book I read was also given to me by NetGalley. It's called Accidents Will Happen by Lucy Golden. So the review that I did for this one was, this book was really good at parts and disgusting at others. I understand that there is a lot of kinks out there, but I don't think that some of them should be in books, and if they are going to be put in, I think they should at least have it somewhere that this book, somewhere that it is in this book. That way the person reading it isn't disgusted by the time they get to the part in the book. Therefore, if people are planning to read this book and are curious as to what I'm meaning, this author seems to be obsessed with peeing and golden showers. I find it disgusting, but if it's your thing, go ahead and read it. I have now read two of her books, and it is in both of them. I will not be reading any more of her books. This disgusts me. If golden showers is your thing, go for it. It's not mine. I think it's disgusting, but to each their own. The next three go together, and I don't think anyone will really be surprised by that. This is the Fifth Wave trilogy by Rick Yancey. So I did read all three just because I was hoping that it would get better, and it didn't. I feel like it got worse throughout the series. So the Fifth Wave. Once you get over the way he writes and that he doesn't explain anything, it's an okay book. I'm undecided on whether or not I'm going to finish the series, but I'm leaning more towards no. It didn't catch me at all. I feel like the author just wanted to make more money off writing books, so made 2 more. It was better than The Darkest Minds, but not by very much. The Infinite Sea. I have... Oh, this is a long one. Okay. Nothing really happens in this book. I finished it faster than the first book, but I think that's because 1, it's shorter, and 2, I want to get to the end of the series so I can read something else. I'm hoping the third and final book, thank God, will explain what is happening, because nothing is explained and it just drags on like nothing is happening. I'll save you having to read this horrible series. What happened in the first book? The 5 waves started to happen and people started to die. Cassie and Sam lost their mother and father and were separated. Sam was sent to a camp to train to be a soldier, and Cassie was on a mission to be reunited with him, so she could give him back his bear, which he no longer needs or cares about. She also falls in love with a silencer, and breaks into the camp to get her brother out. They succeed and run away with Sam's unit, which happens to include her high school crush. What happens in the second book? A lot of walking and running and hiding from the enemy. They find out that the aliens are putting bombs in people to blow them up when they breathe. We find out Evan is alive and is stuck with his teacher, which he escapes from to find Cassie again. Then he once again stays behind to now kill his teacher. Ringer gets captured after she is on her way to find out if the caves are safe to live in for the winter. She ends up shooting Teacup because she was following her without Ringer knowing. And then they both get recaptured by the aliens, where she meets some guy named Razor and they plot an escape plan. She is enhanced, which basically means she was turned into Evan, and then she finds out that the escape was a test to see if she could handle the 12th phase or whatever. So the third book will likely be Ringer leading the aliens to Evan so they can capture him and brainwash him back to doing what he's supposed to. I'm going to finish the book series just so that I know how horrible the whole series was as a whole, and then I will be giving the series to the secondhand bookstore where I can trade them in for something that I will hopefully actually be worth my time. So yeah, not a very good book. And then my thing for the last one, which is The Last Star. I seriously don't understand how this book series was able to get anything better than 2 stars. This series is horrible. I would rather watch paint dry and quite frankly wish I would have rather than reading this garbage. One improvement, however, was that Rick Yancey finally learned how to tell us whose point of view we were reading. So to explain that last part, he never told you who you were in the mind of. He would just switch. So I thought I was reading Cassie. No, I was reading Evan. And then I was reading Sam. And then it was just like, it was weird and complicated. And it made no sense. So the next book that I have on here is also from NetGalley. I got it from The Wedding Obsession. It's The Wedding Obsession. You can't see that. There we go. By Madeline Ash. So, I found this book unbelievably boring and hard to follow along with. I was daydreaming about other things while reading this whole book. I also felt there wasn't much of a connection between Emmy and Brian. This book was very boring, and I'm glad I didn't pay for it. I will not be looking into other books by this author. Okay. The next one, there's only 3 more. The next one I have is the Mirage by Somaiya Daud, which probably surprises some of you guys. But I did not finish this book. It was boring, and I didn't like it. So that's what it looks like. It captured me. Everyone on BookTube was talking about it, telling me it was good, so I figured I would check it out. DNF'd. I can't. I've tried. This is one of the only books I'm giving up on. It's boring and losing my interest. I'm trying to read it and I'm falling asleep because it is so boring. I thought it sounded really cool, but it's just dull. I will be returning it to the store tonight as I don't want to own this book anymore. I've made it to page 188, which is 53% of the book, and I just can't. Nothing is happening in this book. I was kind of thinking it would be like Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, but it's not. It's just horrible. No thank you. So again, strong opinions there. The next one I have surprised me, actually, because I really liked the first one. But that is Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. This is another book that I didn't finish. I read the first one and I needed to have the second one. So I finally found the second one and I started reading it. I DNF'd it at 41%, which is page 208. It was, yeah. I couldn't do it anymore. I had been reading it for a week because I couldn't get into it. I loved the first installment in the series, but will not be finishing this one or The Toll, which is book 3. I think it might be because the first book seemed more like it ended to me than a cliffhanger and went more into the story. So the first one, it wasn't really a cliffhanger because you knew that the person was alive already. So I got rid of the second one. I still have the first one. And then the last book that I read of 2018 that I gave 1 star to is The Queen of Hearts by Colleen Oakes. This book, as you guys know, I really love fairy tale retellings. So this one surprised me at how much I hated this book. I hated this book. It's the first sentence in my review. It's nothing like what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a story of how the Queen of Hearts came to be the Queen of Hearts. I was trying to piece together how the story was based off of Alice in Wonderland. Literally the only thing it has from that story is the characters. But still, not really. I had purchased all 3 books in this series, and they will be going back to the store tomorrow. I will not be recommending to anyone. I love retellings, and this is bad. At least I was able to finish it, but that's because I forced myself to. So, yeah. Those are my worst reads of 2018. I will be putting up a couple more videos very soon, so stay tuned. Bye, guys.